previously on Alaskan. The stampede of men, women, and children to the Klondike have endured some of the most treacherous conditions on Earth, only to realize they were too late and all of the good claims had already been staked. Some were so bruised and beaten, they decided to throw in the towel and head home, while others were not giving up so easily. Some that remained went to work on other people's claims in hope of being close to the action. Others picked up jobs in town either as a merchant or an entertainer of some sort. More than a century later at the Cripple River mining camp, 12 miles outside of Nome, Alaska, the first wave of participants have arrived for a summer filled with golden adventures. To this point, they have tried their hands at pretty much every method of prospecting the camp has to offer. The gold is out there, and they're beginning to uncover their share of it.
Look at that piece.
Holy smokes. Pretty damn nice.
Yeah.
There's a nice piece right there. See it rocking around right there?
That's cool right there.
Should we pan out what we got out of that one concentrate there?
Yeah, why not?
And see what we got?
Yeah. A lot of black sand.
That's not bad.
No.
For an hour.
Yeah.
I promised my kids I'd take them somewhere in the world when they turn 16. So this is his dream right here.
We got like a whole streak of color right here.
The first week of the mining expedition is coming to an end, and the participants and crew who have spent the past week at the outer camps are making their way back to the main camp for the Friday festivities. While Friday symbolizes fun and games for most people on the property, it's an indicator that it's time to get to work for the maintenance crew.
There's, I think, 80 crew members that it takes to run this place. There's a lot going on that other people don't see.
Over at the truck shop, Paul Clark is taking advantage of the entire fleet being back at camp and goes to work performing all the necessary maintenance, keeping the trucks up and running for another week of the expedition.
8 trucks is a lot to keep going every day, and they're on the move all the time. If it ain't hauling people back and forth, it's hauling fuel, supplies, food back and forth to town, and them trucks keep moving all the time. We're burning anywhere between 5 and 1,000 gallons of fuel a week. I work with a lot of the different guys here, the different crew departments and stuff. Jim Daly and John over there in the supply. Harvey over there in the ATV shop. We've been working back and forth. We've got equipment that we use, tools and stuff that we trade off. He does a really good job in the ATV shop. While I'm keeping the trucks going, he keeps them going.
Harvey Comer prepares his shop for an influx of worn four-wheelers. This is his chance to service the machines for the next wave of participants.
Most of my career was appliance repair. I never worked on ATVs until I came up here, and so they asked me if I'd give it a try, so I did, and it's just a learning process since 2003. It's all mechanical, electrical theory. If you apply the basic knowledge that you get from being a mechanic, you can figure it out. The biggest problem we have is they try to go across the river when it's flooded, and they drown them out. And then we have to go through a whole process of draining the muffler, draining the carburetor, and draining the cylinder head when they really get them in deep water. We've had 4 of them drowned already this season, and the record so far is 24 in one season that they drowned. We had one 2 years ago that went off the barge and was out in the ocean for 5 hours before we finally were able to pull it in. And amazingly, we cleaned it up and it's still going to this day. So it's still being rented out.
Pretty much all the departments up here, we all work together, and it's like a family. It's something you really can't describe most of the time.
As the ice in the Yukon River began to thaw in the spring of 1899, Dawson City was still booming. That is, until the news of a new gold discovery was confirmed. Over the winter months, there were rumors that gold had been found near the mouth of the Yukon, north of St. Michael. As the rumors spread, hundreds made the frozen journey 1,500 miles downriver. When the ice cleared and the first sternwheeler arrived at Dawson, the rumors were confirmed. There was, in fact, a major gold strike in Nome, Alaska.
It was like a godsend. Up the Yukon River with the steamboats came word of a gold strike in Nome.
Immediately, thousands of people began fighting for a spot on one of the ships.
If you had gone up to Dawson City for the Klondike and you didn't have a claim, and then you heard about the discovery at Nome and thought, if only I can get there quickly, then maybe I'll have a chance at having my own claim.
Maybe this would be the opportunity they've been waiting for. Maybe this time they wouldn't be too late for a good claim.
Thousands of people crowded onto those steamboats to head down the Yukon River to St. Michael and Nome, where the gold strike was.
Prior to the confirmation of this new gold discovery, there were still thousands of people wandering aimlessly around the boomtown of Dawson, their hopes and dreams shattered, and for some, destroying their very will to survive.
What's really striking, if you see pictures of the gold rush in Dawson, you see thousands of people walking up and down the streets in Dawson City, and you wonder, what are they doing? Well, that's all they had to do. They had no chance of finding gold ground. The claims are all gone, so they were just milling around trying to imagine what they're going to do next.
Extra, extra, gold found in the Klondike.
They could almost hear that same paperboy voice they had heard a couple years earlier prompting their race to the Klondike. Only this time, they felt they had the upper hand. Although the journey to Nome was about 1,500 miles, it seemed as if they were right around the corner.
It was like a a herd of elephants. Everybody charged off down the river to Alaska to follow the elusive gold.
And just as quickly as Dawson filled up, Dawson started to empty out again.
In the blink of an eye, the population of Dawson diminished significantly as an exodus to the new promised land had begun.
Once the news came to Dawson in August of 1899 of another gold strike at Nome, a lot of those people just picked up and left. So it's estimated that in 1 week after that news came in August of 1899, about 8,000 people picked up and left Dawson just like that.
Thousands and thousands of people replicating what happened in Portland, Seattle, and San Francisco when the original word started the strike in the first place. So here we go again, another gold rush.
A lot of those folks were, yes, the more shiftless laborers, folks, the less fortunate, if you will.
There were anywhere from 30 to 40,000 people living in Dawson, and 2 years later, it was all over.
While thousands departed the Klondike upon the news of the new discovery in Nome, many stayed behind under the realization that they were in fact home. In the summer of 1899, the stampeders quickly fled the land in search of new discoveries.
The 40,000 probably went down to about 10,000 as people go off to Nome and the next gold rush.
Around that same time, you had about 3 large mining companies coming into the Dawson area and buying up the small claims holders.
You know, the town sort of reinvented itself. Big machine mining started to come in, the dredges.
Massive dredges were transported to the rich creeks and were operational for decades. To this day, the remains of the beasts are still standing. Dawson City has a population of more than 4,000, many of which are late descendants of old-time miners.
They'll never stop prospecting. They'll never not stop from digging. Because gold is where you find it. It's not there, it's where you find it.
There are people like John Gould, who was born here. There are other places that he has admired, but there's nothing that will replace Dawson for him. And there are many families like that.
John Gould's family has been in this region of the world for the past 100 years, and his contribution to the preservation of the town's history is invaluable.
Dad was there 50 years. I was there 50 years. And my son, who's coming today, was there 25 years. We were 95 years on that one patch of gold.
We still get families every year looking for records because some uncle, some grandfather, some whoever came to the gold rush from all over the world.
Much like the boom towns of Seattle and Skagway, Dawson City is continuing to educate people on such a remarkable time in history. Almost more so with places such as the original cabin from famous poet, the Bard of the Yukon, Mr. Robert Service.
I wanted the gold, and I sought it. I scrabbled and mucked like a slave. Was it famine or scurvy? I fought it. I hurled my youth into a grave. I wanted the gold, and I got it. I came out with a fortune last fall. But somehow life's not what I thought it, and somehow the gold isn't all.
Robert Service's poetry is a clear and accurate representation of the hardships encountered along the Trail of 98.
From the big, dizzy mountains that screen it, to the deep, death-like valleys below. Some say God was tired when he made it. Some say it's a fine land to shun, but there's some that would trade it for no land on earth, and I'm one.
His poetry is kept alive by people like Fred Osen, heritage interpreter for Parks Canada.
To commemorate this sort of thing, there's such a mass movement of people. It really was the last great gold rush. The age of exploration pretty much came to an end with the Klondike Gold Rush. There weren't too many blank places on the map for people to explore that you could paint with whatever your imagination might conceive, right?
With the exodus of so many miners to Nome, Alaska in the summer of 1899, the Klondike Gold Rush has officially come to an end.
You know, we're talking about an event that was world news and is so well documented because of the commercial photographers and the newspapers that were here at the time.
I think it's very important. You know, we have to know about our history. We have to preserve our history. Otherwise, in some cases, we may be doomed to repeat it.
And it's important for us to preserve these things just as a testament, for one thing, of the tenacity of these people, the great folly for gold, I suppose.
I can't imagine that we would ever see that again. It's a huge episode, certainly in Canadian history, in Northern history, and in Alaskan history.
Just important to learn these lessons, to understand how other people live their lives and what we might relate to that for ourselves today, for the benefit of all Canadians, all citizens, for many generations to come.
When we come back, we'll take a final look at Dawson City as it stands today, always remembering the legends of its past. When traveling through the streets of Dawson, it's easy to feel an overwhelming sense of the spirit that embodied the stampeders of the late 1800s. The dirt roads lined with boardwalks, the old stern wheeler, the original buildings, all things that live in remembrance of the town's ancestors. "785 miles west at the Cripple River mining camp near Nome, Alaska, it's Friday night and the mining camp is booming.
Y'all have a good time this week?
The first week participants' work is behind them. They've packed up their concentrates from the week and have now come together to enjoy the camaraderie of their new friends.
Enjoy your evening and let's get started.
It's a night of festivities shared amongst the participants, the crew, and a welcomed wave of Nome locals.
It's my privilege to come out here and say, welcome GPAA Gold Prospectors of America. You are the extension of the spirit that built our town of Nome. Give yourselves a hand. Yes, welcome, welcome.
They all have stories to share from their big week of profound adventure.
They say this is Alaska. It's beautiful land. We've seen muskox out in the field, and some people have seen some bears, and it's just gorgeous. I'm having a great time.
Actually, we met a couple that we had worked with quite a few years ago, and they happened to be across the hooch from us. So that was kind of a nice thing. It was a little bit of a reunion on us for that.
Whatever amount of gold they end up taking home is merely the icing on the cake of an experience that will never be forgotten. The party is commenced, and after a long, sometimes tiring week of mining, people are given an opportunity to involve themselves in the camp's very own vaudeville show.
He was always cold, and that land of gold seemed to hold him like a spell. And he'd often say in his homely way that I'd sooner live in hell.
Somebody taught me into singing. I mean, you know, I don't really have a singing voice, but I can carry a tune. Every time they have a show Friday night, I want to get in on it. So I guess they could say they created a monster.
Joy and laughter is abundant, as many are reflecting on an experience that, until this point, they've only dreamed about.
I'll be sad to leave, but I'll be bringing a lot of memories back to Long Island.
They've walked the same streets, and mined the same creeks. As the men and women who put this city on the map over a century ago. It was early spring 1899 that the new stampede was steadily moving toward Nome. Sternwheelers moved down the Yukon, pushing their way to the Golden Oasis. Hope was once again restored as the struggles the stampeders endured began to fade away. As the thousands of men and women from the Klondike arrived in Nome, they were greeted by a small town filled with hundreds of miners who had already staked claim on most of the available creeks in the region. While gazing off over the horizon of the Bering Sea, contemplating life as they knew it, a miracle was about to occur. Still to come on Alaskan. At the turn of the 20th century, a mad rush of men, women, and children graced the shores of the Bering Sea. This was the famous gold rush that very quickly built the town of Nome. Now, a century later, that rush has been refueled as the town of Nome welcomes hundreds that have made their way north to once again extract new wealth from the ground. For extended content, visit AlaskanTheSeries.com and join the Alaskan the Series fan community on Facebook for all the latest news and updates.